Good morning or good afternoon. Hello, everyone. This is Susan, and this is Susan's Ramblings. A few days ago, I was asked a question, and I really didn't have to think about it. I was asked, do you believe in prayer? Oh, yes, I believe in prayer, because I've had too many instances where if I hadn't believed in prayer, God showed me that He was listening to me. One of the main ones was when I was 19, 20 years old. I was driving, and it was a storm. We live in South Dakota. We have in the winter, about this time of the year, we have all kinds of snow, ice, all kinds of weather, different weather. And our first ice storms usually comes about this time of the year, and it starts out as rain, and then as the temperature drops, it goes to freezing rain, and then it will turn to snow eventually, generally. This year was a little bit different. We started out with a blizzard right away, and that means we had snow, 6 inches of at least 6 inches of snow, and winds that were up to 55 miles an hour. That was what we had one whole day. So instead of our freezing rain like we generally have, we had a blizzard this year. But I'm getting away from my story. When I was 20, 21 years old, my first job was about 25 miles away from home. And it was on good roads, and it was no problem. But the roads that we had were hilly. And I mean, they were big hills, not little hills, but big hills. And I was coming home one day from work, and I came up. It was snowing. It was raining. It was raining is when we started. But the closer I came to home, the icier it got. The more freezing rain we had. And I was going up this one hill, and all of a sudden my car just kind of spun out. And I mean, you know what it means, what it's like if your car starts spinning out. You really have no control over it. At that time, we were told to turn into the spin, but I think they've changed that now. But anyway, I did. But the car kept spinning. It just kept fishtailing back and forth and back and forth and back and forth. And all of a sudden, there was a telephone pole coming up at me. I was on the side of the road. That was before we had our lines buried. But anyway, it was coming up. I was coming up really fast. And I finally just closed my eyes and said, God, it's up to you. And my car stopped. The engine completely quit. And when I stopped, I was facing that telephone pole. I was sideways in the road, and I was facing that telephone pole. But the good Lord stopped me, stopped the car completely. And after a few minutes, I drove on. But that was my first choice, first thing. Another time, many, many years ago, not too many years ago, my granddaughter was going to school, and she and her husband had a little tiny baby. Hadley was maybe 2 months old, 3 months old, not very old anyway. And she called up one morning, she called up her mom one morning and said, "Hey, Mom, I haven't got any balance. I can't see. I can't ba ba ba. I can't talk. I can't." Or I should say, Andy called up and said that. And she had all the symptoms of having a stroke. Well, she was about 2.5 hours away from us. So her mom told her husband to get her to a hospital and that we were on our way down. Andy took her to the hospital. And her mother called me and told me, and she said specifically, start praying because we've got problems with Lexi. Anyway, her mom got down there, and I started all the prayer chains, everything I could think of. I called our local churches. I have a lot of friends that are from other parts of this country, and I called them and I said, we need some prayers up here. Lexi is really sick. It looks like she's having a stroke. She's only 20 years old. Something's going on. We need some prayers. And I went over to have my lunch, and I said, if this doesn't work, I don't know what's going to, because we've got people all over the country praying for Lexi right now. And about that time, my phone rang. And it was my daughter. And she said, Mom, you're never going to believe this. But she says, I'm down here. She says, the doctors are shaking their head. Lexi's fine. There's nothing wrong with her anymore. They can't figure out what in the world went wrong. What happened to Lexi? I know what happened to Lexi. She was having the strokes, and the good Lord heard our prayers and decided to help us. That's why Lexi survived in its years. She has 2 kids now, and she lives just about a mile from me. And we're so grateful. And yes, those prayers had something to do, a lot to do with her being here. The other big prayer one for me is we were in Florida one year over Christmas. And it was during Christmas vacation. We were going to come home Christmas Day, fly home on Christmas Day. And before we left, they had this big snowstorm forecast. And it was a bad snowstorm coming in. And we were down in Florida, and we were watching that weather every day back up here. And it came time for us to fly out. We had to get up early in the morning. We were going to fly out early Christmas morning and get back here about noon. And to about the end, we would be home about 5 o'clock that afternoon. Well, the weather was really bad. And it was looking worse and worse. And every time as we had ice storms all over the place. In fact, we had a call from one of our friends in a town that lives about 12 miles from us. And she says, it's bad up here. We just lost our electricity. They don't know when it's going to come on. And she says, the whole town is out. We're black. Completely out. It's black here. So when I went to bed that night, I said, and I knew my son-in-law, no matter what, he would get you and he would drive home, regardless of what the weather would be. He'd take off. So my prayer was, dear Lord, let us get home before this storm actually hits. And I mean all the way home. Or shut down the interstates so we can't go. Anyway, the next morning we got up, we went to the airport. My granddaughter went in to try to get luggage people to help us. She came back out, and all of a sudden they were all standing together. And I said, what's going on? And Lexi says, our flight was just canceled. We can't get home. They won't take us because of the storm. And I looked at it, I said, oh my God, be careful what you ask for. And they looked at me kind of funny. They said, what? And I said, never mind. I don't know if they know until this day that of my prayer. Anyway, we spent another day down in Florida. It was windy, it was rainy, it was not too profitable a day, but we stayed in Florida and we didn't come home. And when we came home that day, it was nasty out. It was still nasty out. The interstates were covered with ice. It was ice all over. Not just the snow and the wind, but the ice was what was the problem. Anyway, we made it home after a lot of prayers for everybody. And it was just amazing. Be careful what you ask for. Make sure you ask for exactly what you want. I didn't intend for a flight to be canceled. I just intended to get home as close as I could get home and then have to wait it out or at least be home safely. Anyway, yes, I believe in prayer and I believe God answers our prayers. He might say yes, he might say no, he might say maybe, but he always answers our prayers. Thank you. God bless you. We'll see you tomorrow. Have a great day. Bye-bye.